I walked up to my front door, tired from the business trip, only to find my key wouldn't turn. After 3 attempts, I realized the truth. The locks had been changed. Jessica wasn't answering my calls. Finally, a text message appeared. "I know you found someone better in Chicago. Don't try to explain." I stared at my phone in disbelief. How could my wife of 6 years, my partner of 8, think I'd betray her? Nothing made sense anymore. The ground beneath me seemed to disappear. If you've ever experienced that gut-wrenching moment when your world turns upside down, let me know where you're watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever been wrongfully accused. I'll show you how I uncovered the truth behind my wife's shocking decision. 8 years ago, I met Jessica at my college friend Ethan's birthday party. I still remember everything about that night. The way her laugh carried across the crowded room, how her eyes crinkled when she smiled, the way she passionately debated about classic literature with a stranger. I was captivated immediately. "You must be Knox," she said when Ethan finally introduced us. "I've heard you're the only person who challenged Ethan's music taste and won." That night we talked until the party emptied out. We discovered our shared love for indie rock bands, hiking trails nobody knew about, and traveling to places off the typical tourist maps. Our connection was instantaneous and powerful. Our first date was at a small jazz club downtown. I remember being so nervous I arrived 30 minutes early and waited outside rehearsing conversation topics in my head. Jessica showed up wearing a blue dress that matched her eyes perfectly. We stayed until closing time, completely lost in conversation and each other. Jessica loved my honesty and work ethic. I admired her creativity and compassion. She worked as a graphic designer at a marketing firm, bringing beautiful visions to life. I was building my career in sales, determined to prove myself. After 2 years of dating, I proposed during a weekend trip to a mountain cabin. Nothing extravagant, just us, the stars, and a simple question that would change our lives. She said yes, immediately, tears streaming down her face. Our wedding was small, but perfect. We exchanged vows in a garden ceremony, surrounded by 50 of our closest friends and family. Jessica's father gave a toast that made everyone laugh and cry. We danced to our favorite song as husband and wife, feeling like the luckiest people alive. A year after our wedding, we bought our first house, a modest 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. We spent weekends painting walls, planting a garden, and making it truly ours. Every corner held our dreams and plans. The following 6 years were everything I had hoped married life would be. We established comforting routines: Sunday morning pancakes, Friday night movies, summer barbecues with neighbors. We traveled when we could, filling our home with photos and souvenirs from our adventures. We talked about starting a family soon. Jessica had names picked out already: Lily for a girl, James for a boy. We converted the smaller bedroom into a home office, but always knew it might eventually become a nursery. My career was progressing well. I worked hard, putting in extra hours and taking on challenging clients. Last year, the effort paid off when I was promoted to sales team leader. My salary increased substantially, and we started saving more aggressively for our future. With the promotion came more responsibility and pressure. I began working longer hours, sometimes bringing work home on weekends. My new role also required more travel, at least one business trip each month to meet with major clients across the country. Jessica was supportive of my career advancement, but I noticed small changes in our relationship. Our conversations grew shorter. She stopped sharing details about her day, unless I specifically asked. When I was traveling, she would text rather than call, saying she was busy with projects or going out with coworkers. I attributed these changes to normal marriage evolution. We were comfortable with each other. We didn't need constant communication to feel connected. At least that's what I told myself. About 2 months before everything fell apart, Jessica's behavior shifted more noticeably. She started going out more frequently with people she described as friends from work, names I hadn't heard before. She would return home late, sometimes after midnight, offering brief explanations about losing track of time. One evening, I accidentally glimpsed her phone screen when a notification arrived. She quickly flipped the phone over and changed the subject. Later that night, I noticed she had added a password to her phone, something we had never done before in our relationship. When I asked about these changes, Jessica brushed them off. Everyone needs privacy, Knox. It is not a big deal. Her tone left no room for further discussion. We also started having minor arguments about my work schedule. You are never really present anymore, she said during one particularly tense dinner. Even when you are home, your mind is at the office. I promised to be more attentive to create better boundaries between work and home. I truly meant it, but the demands of my position made it difficult to follow through consistently. Then came the opportunity that would inadvertently change everything. A major sales pitch to a potential client in Chicago. If successful, this deal would significantly boost our company's portfolio and solidify my position for future advancement. It is only 3 days, I told Jessica as I packed my suitcase. I will call you every night. She nodded, helping me fold my dress shirts. Good luck. I know this deal is important to you. Her words were supportive, but I noticed a lack of enthusiasm in her voice. Still, I chalked it up to her being tired after a long workday. The night before my departure, we had a normal evening at home. We ordered takeout from our favorite Thai restaurant, watched an episode of the show we were following, and went to bed early since my flight left at 7:00 a.m. As I was double-checking my travel documents, Jessica handed me a small wrapped package. Just a little something for your trip, she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Inside was a new leather passport holder, with my initials embossed on it. So you always find your way back home, she had written on the card. I kissed her, touched by the gesture. I always will, I promised. The Chicago meetings were intense and all-consuming. Our team worked 14-hour days refining our presentation and addressing the client's concerns. I played a crucial role in navigating complex negotiations and answering technical questions. Each night, despite my exhaustion, I called Jessica as promised. Our conversations were brief. She said she was swamped with a rush project at work that required late nights at the office. I shared highlights from my meetings, and she responded with appropriate but minimal interest. By the third day, we had successfully closed the deal. My colleagues wanted to celebrate with dinner and drinks, but I declined. My flight is not until tomorrow afternoon, I told them, but I think I will see if I can get an earlier flight. I want to surprise my wife. That morning, I managed to book a seat on an early flight and arrived home nearly 6 hours ahead of my original schedule. On the way from the airport, I stopped at a jewelry store and purchased a silver bracelet. Jessica had admired months ago but insisted was too expensive. I wanted to celebrate my success by treating her to something special. I pulled into our driveway around 4:00 p.m., excited to surprise Jessica. She would not be expecting me for hours and might even still be at work. I planned to use my extra time to prepare a special dinner. That was when I discovered my key no longer worked in our front door. I stood on our front porch confused and increasingly concerned. I tried my key again, wiggling it gently, thinking perhaps the lock was just sticking. After the third attempt, the reality became undeniable. The locks had been changed. My first thought was that there had been a break-in or security issue while I was away. I immediately called Jessica's cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried her work number with the same result. Finally, I sent a text, I am home early but cannot get in. Did something happen with the locks? 10 excruciating minutes later, my phone chimed with a response that knocked the wind out of me. I know you found someone better in Chicago. I saw the messages. Do not try to explain. Just leave me alone. I read the text multiple times, unable to process what Jessica was implying. What messages? What someone better? I had spent every waking moment in meetings or working with my team in the hotel conference room. Jessica, there is some mistake. I have no idea what you are talking about. Please call me. I texted back frantically. No response came. After an hour of waiting on the porch, calling repeatedly, and sending increasingly desperate messages, I realized she was not going to answer. With nowhere else to go, I called Ethan, the friend who had introduced us years ago. Whoa, slow down, Ethan said after I rambled through an explanation. Come over and we will figure this out. I spent that night on Ethan's couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past few months, searching for clues that might explain Jessica's accusation. Nothing made sense. The next morning, I tried calling Jessica again. My calls went straight to voicemail, and when I checked my text messages, I discovered she had blocked my number. The realization hit me like a physical blow. My wife had completely cut me off, without even allowing me to defend myself. With no other option, I drove to her office hoping to catch her during lunch break. The receptionist informed me that Jessica had taken personal leave for the week. When I asked if everything was okay, the woman gave me a cold look. "I think you should go," she said firmly. As I walked back to my car, I received a text from another mutual friend canceling our planned dinner that weekend. No explanation given. Within hours, 3 more friends sent similar messages. It was as if overnight I had become a pariah. That evening, I created a new email account and wrote to Jessica, pouring my heart out, begging for a chance to talk, to understand what was happening. The email bounced back. She had blocked that avenue of communication too. By the 3rd day, the situation had deteriorated further. Through Ethan, who reluctantly agreed to check social media accounts, I could no longer access. I learned that Jessica had changed her relationship status to single and posted photos of herself with friends at a bar smiling broadly, as if celebrating her newfound freedom. The emotional impact was devastating. I could not eat or sleep. My thoughts raced between confusion, hurt, and anger. How could she believe I would betray her? What evidence could possibly have convinced her so thoroughly? In desperation, I drove to her parents' home. I had always had a good relationship with them, especially her father. But when I knocked, no one answered, though both their cars were in the driveway. I could see movement behind the curtains before they were firmly shut. That night at Ethan's apartment, I hit my lowest point. "What if she is right to leave me?" I asked my friend. "Maybe I have been too focused on work. Maybe I have been a terrible husband without realizing it." Ethan looked uncomfortable. "Look, Knox, people are saying you were seen with some woman in Chicago. That there are messages proving it." "What woman?" I exploded. "I was in meetings the entire time. Ask anyone on my team." "Someone mentioned a woman named Sophia," Ethan said reluctantly. "Sophia was my colleague, part of our sales team. She was married, with 3 kids, and had been in every meeting with me and 5 other team members." The accusation was so absurd, I would have laughed if I was not so devastated. The following day, my 4th, without access to my home or any real communication with my wife, I received an email from Sophia herself. "Knox, something strange is happening. Jessica contacted my husband with screenshots of messages I supposedly sent you. These are completely fabricated. I thought you should see them." Attached were images of what appeared to be romantic text exchanges between Sophia and me, planning secret meetings during our Chicago trip and discussing our future together. The messages were dated throughout our business trip. I stared at the screen in disbelief. The messages were elaborate fakes using information about our business trip that someone would only know if they had inside knowledge of our schedule. The email from Sophia was the first break in the bewildering cloud that had descended over my life. Someone had deliberately created false evidence of an affair. But who would do this? And how I immediately replied to Sophia, thanking her for bringing this to my attention and assuring her I would get to the bottom of it. Then I contacted our company's IT department, explaining the situation and asking if they could help trace the origin of the fake messages. Martin, our head of cybersecurity, agreed to look into it unofficially. "This kind of thing is actually more common than you might think," he told me. "Digital impersonation is relatively easy for someone with basic technical skills." Within hours, Martin confirmed that someone had created an email account nearly identical to mine, with just 1 character different, a detail most people would miss at a casual glance. This account had been used to register for a temporary phone number service that allowed sending texts that appeared to come from my actual number. "Whoever did this knew a lot about you and your work schedule," Martin noted. "The IP address traces back to a coffee shop near your home. I cannot tell you exactly who it was, but this was definitely a targeted attack." The pieces were starting to come together, but I still did not understand who would want to destroy my marriage. I made a list of people who knew details about my Chicago trip and had access to information about both Jessica and me. One name stood out: Tyler Williams. He had been Jessica's friend since college before she met me. Over the years, I had occasionally sensed his resentment toward me, though Jessica always dismissed my concerns. Tyler had worked in IT before switching to graphic design, and now worked at the same company as Jessica. The timing suddenly made sense. Tyler had attended a dinner at our home just before my trip where I had discussed the Chicago client in detail. He would have known exactly when I would be away and unable to immediately defend myself. I called Ethan with my suspicions. "That actually makes sense," he said slowly. "Tyler has been around a lot since you have been gone. He is the one who drove Jessica to change the locks, claiming he was concerned for her safety after what you had done." Anger boiled up inside me, replacing the confusion and hurt of the past 4 days. Someone had deliberately tried to destroy my life, and I was not going to let them succeed. I decided to confront Tyler directly. Through social media, I discovered he frequented a particular bar on Thursday nights. With Ethan beside me for support, I waited until I saw him enter the establishment. Tyler's face drained of color when he spotted me approaching his table. "We need to talk," I said, keeping my voice level despite the rage coursing through me. "I have nothing to say to you," he muttered, trying to push past me. I blocked his path. "I know what you did. The fake emails, the spoofed text messages. IT traced everything back." His expression flickered between fear and defiance. "You cannot prove anything." "Actually, I can," I replied, placing my phone on the table recording app running. "And right now you are going to tell me exactly why you did it, or the police will be my next call. Digital impersonation is a crime in this state." Several of our mutual friends had gathered nearby, drawn by the confrontation. With witnesses present and evidence mounting, Tyler's resolve crumbled. "She deserves better than you," he spat. "You are never home, always working. She has been lonely for years while you chase promotions." "So you decided to destroy our marriage based on your opinion?" I asked incredulously. "I have loved her since college." Tyler admitted, his voice dropping. "Before you ever came along. I have waited years for her to see that we belong together." The bar had grown quiet, everyone listening to Tyler's confession. Ethan moved closer, his phone also recording the conversation. "Tell everyone exactly what you did," I demanded. Tyler's shoulders slumped. "I created fake messages. Made it look like Knox was having an affair with his coworker during his business trip. I showed them to Jessica and convinced her not to confront him until she had protected herself by changing the locks." Whispers spread through the onlookers. Several people pulled out their phones, undoubtedly spreading the news through our social circle. With the truth finally exposed, I left Tyler to face the judgment of our friends and focused on my next challenge, reaching Jessica with the truth. I contacted Amanda, Jessica's closest friend, sending her the recordings of Tyler's confession and the evidence from our IT department. "Please," I wrote, "just ask Jessica to meet me. She deserves to hear the truth." 2 agonizing hours later, Amanda replied. Jessica had agreed to meet me the following morning at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. I barely slept that night, rehearsing what I would say, how I would explain. Despite everything, I still loved Jessica. But I also felt deeply hurt that she had so quickly believed the worst about me without even giving me a chance to explain. The next morning I arrived early at the coffee shop, securing a quiet table in the corner. When Jessica walked in, my heart clenched. She looked exhausted, her eyes red-rimmed, her normally immaculate appearance disheveled. Whatever she had believed about me the past few days had clearly been hell for her too. She sat down stiffly, not meeting my eyes. "Amanda said you have proof it was all a lie," she said without preamble. I placed my phone on the table between us, along with printed copies of Martin's IT analysis and the recording of Tyler's confession. "Everything you saw was fabricated," I said quietly. "I never betrayed you, Jessica. I never would." As Jessica reviewed the evidence, her composure cracked. Tears streamed down her face as the full reality of Tyler's deception became clear. "I trusted him," she whispered. "He was my friend for 10 years. When he showed me those messages, I never questioned if they might be fake. Who does something like this? Someone who wanted to destroy our marriage for his own purposes," I replied, my voice gentle, despite my still raw emotions. Jessica looked up at me, her eyes filled with remorse. "Knox, I am so sorry. I should have talked to you. I should have given you a chance to explain." I nodded, acknowledging her apology but not yet ready to absolve her completely. Why did you believe it so easily? After 8 years together, what made you think I would suddenly betray everything we built? Jessica wiped her tears. Things have been different lately. You have been distant, always working. The messages seemed to confirm my worst fears. You could have called me, I said, the hurt evident in my voice. Instead, you blocked me completely. You changed our locks. You told our friends I had cheated before I even knew what was happening. She had no answer for that, and we sat in painful silence, the wreckage of our trust lying between us, like broken glass. That coffee shop conversation was just the beginning of a long, difficult process of rebuilding. Jessica confronted Tyler that same day, with Amanda accompanying her for support. According to Amanda, Tyler initially tried to justify his actions as protecting Jessica, but eventually admitted his true motives. I always thought you would realize we were meant to be together, he reportedly told Jessica. Knox was just a detour on our path. Jessica cut Tyler out of her life completely after that, blocking him on every platform and alerting her company's HR department about his behavior. But the damage to our relationship could not be so easily addressed. I moved back into our home, but the atmosphere was tense and awkward. We slept in separate rooms those first few weeks, both of us processing our feelings and trying to figure out if we could move forward together. Do you think you can ever trust me again? Jessica asked one night, as we sat at opposite ends of our couch. I honestly do not know, I answered truthfully. I love you, but I keep thinking about how quickly you believe the worst about me. How completely you shut me out without even a conversation. Jessica nodded, tears in her eyes. And I keep wondering if I will ever forgive myself for that. If our marriage can survive such a fundamental breakdown. We agreed to try professional help. Our first session with Dr. Marshall, a marriage counselor, was brutally honest. We both acknowledged the issues that had existed before Tyler's deception. My increasing focus on work, Jessica's withdrawal, our diminishing communication. Trust is rebuilt in small moments, Dr. Marshall told us. Day by day, conversation by conversation. It cannot be rushed or forced. Over the following months, we committed to the process. We established new patterns of communication, checking in with each other throughout the day, having device-free dinners, where we really talked, planning weekly date nights, where work topics were off-limits. Jessica transferred to a different department at her company to avoid any contact with Tyler. I set firmer boundaries with my work, limiting late nights and being more fully present when I was home. For my part, I had to work through significant personal hurt. In my darkest moments, I questioned whether I could ever fully trust Jessica again. The image of her so easily believing I would betray her haunted me. Sometimes I still feel angry, I admitted during one therapy session. Not just about what happened, but about all the friends who immediately took sides without questions. About how fragile everything we built together turned out to be. That anger is valid, Dr. Marshall assured me. Acknowledging it is part of healing. Jessica reached for my hand during that session, the first spontaneous physical contact she had initiated since our reconciliation began. I think about it from your perspective all the time, she said softly. How terrifying and disorienting it must have been to come home and find yourself locked out of your life with no explanation. Her empathy in that moment was a turning point for me. Slowly, carefully, we began to rebuild. We learned to be more direct with our feelings, to voice concerns before they festered, to give each other the benefit of the doubt. 6 months after the incident, we decided to move. The house held too many painful memories, too many ghosts of our near divorce. We found a new place across town and approached it as a fresh start. No secrets in this house, we promised each other as we unpacked. No unspoken resentments. No assumptions about what the other is thinking. A year has now passed since those nightmarish 4 days when our marriage nearly ended. While I cannot say we have fully recovered, we are stronger in many ways. We understand how precious trust is and how easily it can be damaged. We have learned not to take each other for granted. The experience taught me that even the strongest relationships are vulnerable. That communication is not just important, it is essential. That trust built over years can shatter in moments, and rebuilding it requires courage and commitment from both people. Most importantly, I learned that love alone is not enough. It must be paired with respect, with the willingness to listen, with the courage to be honest, even when the truth is difficult. Jessica and I still attend monthly sessions with Dr. Marshall, not because we are struggling, but because we value the structured opportunity to check in with each other on a deeper level. I still think about those 4 days sometimes, the confusion, the pain, the sense of my life spinning out of control. I wonder what would have happened if Sophia had not sent that crucial email, if the truth had never come to light. It frightens me how easily lies can overwhelm truth, how readily people believe the worst. But I also think about what we have built since then, how we no longer take our relationship for granted, how we prioritize each other every day in small ways and large ones. Have you ever had to rebuild trust in your relationship? Do you think you could forgive someone who doubted you so completely? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that relationships can survive even the most difficult challenges. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, truth and honest communication are the foundation of any lasting relationship.